everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to play the board game Mrs. Monopoly from Hasbro. The version of Monopoly in which women make more than men. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with some of the differences over here. There's not going to be any mortgaging, there are no houses, and there are no hotels, and there's probably a couple other minor differences, but those are the main ones. Anyway, one of the things you've got is what are called ride shares. These replace the railroads. If you land on them, it's simply going to take you from one ride share over to another, so it's going to help you move around the board more quickly. Now, all your tokens are over here. You're simply going to pick one, and you're going to place it there on the go space, and then you're going to pass out the money, which is over here. Now, the women are going to get $1,900, and the men are going to go ahead and get $1,500. Now, the majority of these spaces are inventions, and these replace the properties, and I'll just go ahead and show you some of them over here. These are inventions from women. You got the retractable dog leash, you've got acupressure tool, and they're all over here. I'm going to talk about these here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the other spaces on the board. Right over here is the go space. If you land on or pass this, you're going to receive money. If you're a woman, you'll receive $240. If you're a man, you're going to receive $200. Right here is the community chest space. If you land on this, you're going to go ahead and draw this card. And these cards are either going to give you money or you're going to lose money. And a couple of these cards are actually advantageous to men. And here's one. It says your article about successful women entrepreneurs gets published. Collect 200. If you're a man, collect $250. So essentially, you're going to be doing something that's going to help women in order to get more of the money. But there's not a lot of these types of cards in here. If you land on income tax or the luxury tax, you're simply going to just pay that amount that's listed. The chance space are going to be these cards over here. They're similar to community chest. They just have different things. Right here is the just visiting space. If you land on here, nothing's going to happen. If you end up in jail, which is this, and the way you're going to be getting into jail is if you land on the go to jail space. If you roll doubles 3 times in a row, because if you end up rolling doubles, you're going to get to go again. Or if you end up drawing a card that says go to jail. And if you get sent to jail, you're not going to collect $200 when you pass go. Sorry, ladies. Now, to get out of jail, there's 3 things you can do. You can either pay $50 to the bank and get out. If you have a get out of jail free card that you'll be getting from those 2 piles, you will be able to go ahead and play that and get out. Or you can try to roll doubles on your next 3 turns. If you're able to do so before your 3rd turn ends, you'll be able to get out of jail for free. Otherwise, you're going to have to go ahead and pay the $50. Now, you also have the free parking space. Nothing's going to happen if you land on there. Now I'll go ahead and talk about the properties. As you can tell, there are different color groups of these properties. There's a couple that have 2 in a color group, and most of them are going to have 3. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll the dice, and you're going to move that amount of spaces. Let's just say, for example, I rolled an 11. I was the cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, right now, it is unowned. So if I wanted to go ahead and buy it, all I have to do is just pay the amount that is shown here to the bank, and I can go ahead and purchase the invention. And then I will go ahead and receive a card, like so. Now, if somebody rolls and lands on this invention that I own, they're going to have to pay me rent. Right now, the rent is at $70. But if throughout the game somewhere I was able to get a Monopoly and own this and this, they would end up paying me double. In this case, they would end up paying me $140 for this. Now, you also have what are called headquarters. Anytime you own a Monopoly, you will be able to buy a headquarters to add to your invention, and that'll help jack up the value, and you can do it whenever you want. So let's say I went ahead and I purchased headquarters, and the card will tell you how much the headquarters is with that particular invention. In this case, it's going to cost you $350. But as you can see, if somebody lands on this while I have the headquarters, that's going to jack the rent up to $280. Now, on the back of the cards, it's going to have the invention, and it's also going to tell you who invented it. It's going to just tell you a little bit about it. Now, the utility spaces have been replaced by a couple of things, the Wi-Fi and the solar heating. And these work a little bit differently than the particular inventions. Now, if you own this and someone lands on it, they're going to have to pay 4 times the amount that's shown on the dice. If it turns out you own both the Wi-Fi and the solar heating, they're going to have to go ahead and pay you 10 times that amount. Now, let's say I ended up landing on here and I didn't want to buy it. Then in case the invention is going to go ahead and go up for auction. So what's going to happen is the auction will go ahead and start at $10, and then people can go ahead and bid. And you can increase the bid in increments of $1 or more. And whenever the auction ends and nobody wants to bid anymore, whoever bid the highest is going to go ahead and get the invention. Now, if nobody wants to bid on it or nobody wants the property, then the property is simply going to stay with the bank. Now, if it gets to the point where all the headquarters are on the board and you're down to one last one, if there are multiple players that want it, then there's going to have to be an auction for it, and it works the same way with the exception of the increments. The auction in this case would start for $10, and it's going to increase by $10, and again, whoever ends up auctioning the most is going to go ahead and get the last headquarters. Now, in this game, you can also deal and trade, meaning that if you ended up having, say, 2 of these properties and somebody else had the third one, you can go ahead and try to see if you could buy it for them or offer them cards, maybe offer them a get out of jail free card, but you can barter however you want to at any time throughout this game. Well, let's say I was the airplane and I ended up landing here on the chocolate chip cookies, and then the person who owned it said, "You owe me $800. Well, let's say I didn't have the $800. So what I could do is I could start selling some of the properties back to the bank at face value. So in this case, the face value would be $80, and I could sell that back to the bank, or if I wanted to, I could sell it back to a player at an agreed upon price. If it turns out the invention has a headquarters on it, it will sell back to the bank at the headquarters rent price. But the headquarters is actually going to go ahead and stay on the property. So let's just say it was over here. So if somebody else landed on this after I had traded it back to the bank and they decided to buy it, they would get the headquarters for free. Now, if I land on somebody's invention and I can't pay them back and I end up going bankrupt, then they're going to get everything that I have. If it turns out I go bankrupt because of a card or something like that, then I'm going to give everything that I have back to the bank. Now, the game is going to go ahead and end once the last one of these inventions has been purchased. And what's going to happen is that everybody's going to go ahead and collect rent one more time from all of the inventions that they own. If they own a complete color set, they're going to go ahead and get double. And if there happens to be a headquarters on one of those, they're going to go ahead and get the headquarters value. So everybody's going to go ahead and get rent one more time. Then everybody's going to go ahead and count up all their money, and whoever has the most amount of money at the end is going to win. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Mrs. Monopoly.